Hey, hi, hello. If you haven't seen part 1 of designing sounds from scratch, be sure to check the description below because we are starting right where we left off. Alright, so it's too short right now, and placed in the wrong spot, but I think I can work with this. So let me stretch it out, and we'll play around with it. Cool, let's just move this over just a hair, and we'll leave it there for now. Yeah, I can see it's clipping, by the way. That's okay. We'll just turn this down. All right. So that's one kind of starting point. Doesn't time perfectly, but no worries. We'll come back to it just like we are going to with this beep. Right now, we're just roughing things out. So cool. Let's keep adding some extra stuff in there. Let's search for electric. Oops, I spelled that way wrong. Electric. And we'll see what kind of electricity sounds there are in here to kind of give us any sound of energy or crackling or anything like that. Ooh, neat. Just gonna throw those in up there just in case for later, because you never know. Yep. So what I'm doing right now is kind of throwing up sounds that we'll probably end up using later, but not necessarily always. Oh, a nice low hum. Sure. Yeah, cool. We're already kind of filling stuff up, but that's okay. We'll make more tracks. Nice. Yes. Sure. Why not? And you'll see that this is actually a sound that's multi-channel, not just stereo. Neat. Whoa. Ooh, yeah. Cool. I really like those sparks. So let's start working with those. I'll move this up here, and I'm going to rename some stuff. And I'm just going to make sure that these have some color, whatever they may be, so long as it's something that isn't gray. Cool. Gross beige and pink. A perfect combination. All right, so let me just kind of move this over to where I think it'll work and see what starting point it should have. I'll just solo it for now. All right, cool. I think I'll probably stick with that intro. Yeah, I think I'll just stick with that. Let's cut that rest of it out. We can always come back to it considering DAWs are non-destructive, so it doesn't go away. I'm just getting rid of the part I don't want for now, just to make things cleaner. I'll unsolo that. And I'm just going to kind of roughly place it where I think it should go. And I'm going to get rid of some of this intro as well. Fade it in just a little bit. Do a little fade out. Again, this is all roughing stuff out. That's the whole point of this. Sure, maybe right when it starts crackling. And we'll stop it when it stops needing to crackle so much. So I'm just moving the cursor. That's why it's making that weird tape slow down and speed up sound. All right, so let's cut right there. Boom. Great. And that's kind of our rough positioning. Let me add that new fade out. Fade in's still there. Cool. So that's roughly the right timing, but not really perfect at all yet. I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit, just so one feeds into the other. And we're going to work with these two just for now, and we're probably going to add a ton more layers to each one. I'll turn this down as well because it is clipping, just to make sure that things don't clip as a whole, but mixing doesn't really happen until the final phase. But for now, we'll do some rough mixing to keep things nice and even. Okay, so let's listen to what we have so far. All right, so you can tell right away that electricity sounds way too weak. But the first thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of that good fairy dust on top of this reverse whoosh, i.e. reverb. So I'm just going to copy paste this and then edit that reverb plugin that we were playing with earlier for that first track. So basically what I want is this final bit of this reverse whoosh to kind of reverberate into this electricity sound. So we'll keep the mix pretty high, but maybe not 100%. Turn it down lower a little bit in the space so it doesn't reverberate for too long. And let's just hit play. Cool, so it has a little bit more of a tail. Great, that's a great place to start. I'm going to bring some of the high frequencies back and let it kind of boom a little bit more in that zone. Cool, so I'm happy with that for now, but we're going to definitely need to do some stuff to this Sparks layer. So first thing I'm going to do is pitch it down. So I'm actually going to use Reaper's built-in pitch shifting plugin, which is just called Repitch, because it's actually pretty good. It's surprisingly good, especially for a built-in plugin. But any sort of pitch shifter will give you the same results. So I'm going to just pitch it down and just take a listen. Okay, so I'm just going to pitch it down somewhere around there, but just for funsies, I'm going to turn it all the way down. And that kind of leaves us with too much of a plasticky sort of sound. But you can also change the algorithm in this pitch shifting plugin. So I'm going to change it to Elastic 327 Pro. And I can also choose which formants I want to keep. So let's try preserving the high pitches. So when I pitch it down, those high pitches don't get as affected. They kind of stay crisper. And if I try preserving the low pitches, considering this doesn't have a lot of low bits, that doesn't do a whole lot, so I'm going to actually let it preserve some of the high pitches and leave some of that cracklingness there as well. I'll also put a compressor on it because it has a lot of popping elements. So I'm going to use FabFilter's Pro C2. Any compressor would work, but these are just some of my favorite plugins. Again, they don't sponsor this video at all. I'm just using them because I like them. I'm going to turn auto gain off. Let's make this threshold a little lower. Cool, that's good for now. It'll just kind of even it out. Make it so it doesn't bounce around too much, and we'll make things sound a little bit more manageable. Okay, cool, great. So let's take a listen to some of this other stuff that I kind of left off to the side earlier, because we're going to use some of that to beef up this electricity sound, or maybe search for something new. Who's to say? Cool, so we got some of those zaps. Let's take a listen here. So let's actually use one of these to layer underneath this kind of sparky, zappy sort of thing right here. So let me just make a new track underneath it, and I'll just kind of cut this out and throw it up there. We call this Sparks Layer 1. And Sparks Layer 2. This isn't the standard naming convention or anything like that. It's just to make it so it's a little easier for you to tell what's actually going on with what sound. So what I'm going to do is just listen to these two in unison before I really do anything. Cool, so it's a little more beefy now, a little bit more like what we're looking for, but it's not really that close yet. It doesn't sound particularly sci-fi, it just kind of sounds kind of like a mess. But what's it sound like if I reverse this kind of zappy sound? Slightly more chaotic, so that's cool. That's something that we can use for sure. Let me just shorten this a little bit, sync it up with the top event, shrink it down. Great, awesome, cool. And I'll pitch this second thing down as well and put some reverb on it in just a second. So I copied and pasted that repitch over here. And actually, I don't want to preserve the high pitches. I'd actually prefer to preserve the low pitches in this case. Cool. So it is still too chaotic, but I like it more pitched down. I'm actually going to pitch this down, or turn this down a little bit, turn this down just a little bit, And I'll add some reverb to each of these. You may be wondering why I'm not adding reverb to this kind of Portal master track so everything has reverb. The reason is just so I have more control over each of these tracks' reverb individually as opposed to having the same one across everything. I don't want the same one across everything. So I'm just going to copy paste, click and drag. So we have some reverbs here. Actually, let me move this down one. So let me adjust the reverb for this spark here, this higher pitch spark. Cool, sounding better already. Bit close. Cool, that's already a little bit better. Again, reverb is the fairy dust of sound design. Throw more on and it'll always sound good. Not always. Cool. Sounds a little too much like it's in a swimming pool right now, but that's okay. We'll come back. We can fix stuff. Cool. So we have kind of a weird sort of transition right now. So we have a big kind of boomy thing happening, and then it gets really weak all of a sudden. So we're going to need to work on something that will help us kind of bridge the gap between these two things. So let's play around and see what there could be that could help us. For example, we have this kind of low electric hum that we had earlier. Neat. Cool. And it gets kind of higher pitch. All right, we could use something like that. Let me just take the low bassy bit. And I'll just make a handy new track. Cool. Awesome. And what I'm going to do is have this overlap those kind of earlier events that transition into this kind of currently weak sounding sparky bit. So let me unsolo some stuff. So let's just take a quick listen. So now we have a little bit of something connecting the two bits. It's not enough, but it's something that will at least give us some sort of connection between this big fat rise and this weaker sounding zappy bit. All right, that's where we're going to end part 2 for now. As always, do the subscribe, bell, liking thing that every YouTuber tells you to do. And if you like this video, please check out my newsletter and sign up for that if you want to work in the game industry as an audio professional. That's where I share all my best tips on how to break into the game industry and actually get paid to work in it. So thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one.